Nick, welcome to CFO at Home. Thanks for your time today.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Vince. Thank you.
So, I understand the roots of your interest in money go all the way back to your parents' divorce at the age of 10. As far as all of the work that you're doing with money, that is, so to speak, your origin story. Would love to hear a little bit about that before we dive into the book and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things that have been written about me you'll state, man, Nick is really passionate. He's got a fire that burns through him, and it really does. I'll take you back to the summer of 1996. I was a 10-year-old boy. I was the middle youngest of four wild boys, all a couple years apart. My dad was an entrepreneur, successful. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, four boys. And honestly, Vince, I didn't even know what money was. 10 years old, living a good life, just knew things were smoothing along, and that all changed pretty quickly. I remember like it was yesterday. I was in my room, my safe place, and my mom walks in, and I remember she looks worried. And she sits down next to me, puts her arm around me, and says, "Your dad and I are getting divorced." And I really even realized the magnitude of that sentence right there. We're getting divorced, because it seems like overnight my mom went from a stay-at-home mom of four to a single mom of four, working three jobs just to survive. And things weren't that great for my dad either. Really, it was at a very young age that I quickly realized how much money influences all of our lives, either for good or for bad. Vince, you got to think about it. We went from a pretty good sized house on one side of town to a tiny mobile home on the other. That good life I was talking about, to essentially my mom telling us, "Hey, go get all the loose change around the house because we're going to need it." And the thing was, it wasn't the stuff. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the clothes. It wasn't that stuff. But it was the seeing the emotional and physical toll that it took on my mom and my brothers. It lit a fire under me. It did, Vince. I wanted to learn everything I could. I wanted to read. I wanted to understand. That way I could learn how to build. I wanted to learn how to grow. And I wanted to learn how to protect. And so we lived through that. And I never want you or anybody to ever have to go through something like that. And that's what I love about what I do. I help people become rich in money. Yes, very rich. But also, I help them understand how to become rich in life, rich in relationships, rich in family, faith. And that way, when the whole world around you seems like it's in chaos, you'll know how to protect those riches and be confident in your future. And I love it. I love what I do.
So I would imagine a 10-year-old boy could take a lot of lessons away from that. And I can easily see how would shape your view of money. Initially, what shape did that take? Was it money is bad because this lack of money is making my life harder, it's making my dad's life harder, it's making my mom's life harder, it's making our life harder? Is it, hey, we when we had money we were happy, and now that we don't have it, everybody's unhappy? Was it more of a money equals happiness thing? How did you initially process
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. That's a really good question. To be honest with you, as a 10-year-old, I still don't even know if I quickly just right away knew that it was money. I just knew that life
Right.
changed. Like life is completely different now. I mean, from night to day. And I do remember as I got older, I started to realize, yeah, it was money. But then my life, I still had to learn and evolve and grow, because I'll talk to you about this down the road, but like I thought it was just money. But there's a lot more to it than money. But I associated money as I got older with comfort, with peace. There's a lot more to it. But yeah, that was initially how I saw it. Oh my goodness, life used to be this, and now life is that. I want this back, but now I'm living in this over here, and it's like, how can I get that back?
So that at some point maybe breed a little more of a maybe materialistic way of looking at money. Again, money equals happiness. Maybe the more money I have, the more happy I am. I mean, in your evolution of your thought, was that a stage?
No, not really. Yes, I'm human. There are certain parts of my life that I probably wanted or desired things, but what I found myself attracted to and paying attention to was people that just had the good life. Just seemed, hey, they were comfort, they were peace, they were able to do certain things, maybe have certain things, but it wasn't necessarily the things that I want that. No, it was more like the whole lifestyle. I remember that when I was 16 years old, that's when it really changed. I was working a golf course. I was taking out the trash, washing golf carts, shagging balls on the driving range, and I would see people like on the golf course, and I'd say, "Hey, I want that life," but I never did know how to do it. But until the owner, his name was Rex. He used to play a game with me called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He taught me a little bit about money. And it was actually just one thing he really taught me that stuck with me was the power of compound interest. Vince, I don't know how much money I made. I probably made $5 an hour. I really don't know for sure, but I remember he showed me that if I took a little bit of my paycheck, and he actually showed me these numbers and said, hey, if you put this back and it compounds, I don't remember the exact number, but I knew when I got into my 30s, it was a huge number. Now, anything would seem big to a 16-year-old kid, but I just, at that point in time, I felt empowered that, oh my goodness, my future could be a lot better than my past.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about this in years, but I think one of my first kind of consolidated thoughts about money, or a philosophical, this is what money is, this is what I want out of life, was simply, I just want enough money to not worry about money.
Yeah. You know what it is? And there's actually, and Vince, that's a really good point because there's actually two parts to that. One is, and it's subjective on what that number is for everybody, but one is getting to a point where you don't have to worry about money, but you also need to understand money so that what that lifestyle is sustainable, to where you don't have worry, because people fear the unknown. But once you get there, money's a paradox. You don't worry about money anymore because A, you have it, or you have the investments, or you're on your way to having it, but B, you understand how it works and how to use it, how to deploy it towards working for you. And then you're right, you don't worry about it. Then does that mean your life's perfect? No. I have 4 kids. Of course I have ups and downs and we get sick and this and that. But the thing is, it takes a big boulder off your shoulders to where you really get to enjoy life in each day and not have to worry about that. And that's a key element to life. It really is.
So your book is called Rich by Choice. Help us understand, the title is certainly catchy, but help us to understand a little bit more about exactly what that means.
Yeah, so it's actually, there's several different elements involved in that title, because the first thing is choice. We all have a choice. We're so lucky to live in the United States of America. I know the United States of America is not perfect. I know that. But oh my goodness, when I was younger, I lived overseas for a little while, and I got to visit some beautiful places with some beautiful people. But I tell you what, I quickly realized how lucky we are and how much I miss home and I appreciate home. So we all have a choice, and it's also the choices we make. So not only is a big picture choice of, yeah, we can do this. Think about it, Vince, if you want to go start a real estate company right now, or you want to start a manufacturing company, if you want to do this or that, you can do that. And it's all about the daily choices we make and the habits. So that's where choice comes in, because we all have it. And then rich, I talk about this in the book. When I talk about it in the book, I talk about rich. Yes, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, wealth, all these different vocabulary words. But it's also rich in money, but it's rich in $1 million worth of hugs and kisses from your grandkids, 1 billion times that take your breath away. And I know these are cliche, but it's true, because you need money for these things, but you want to be rich in all areas of life, of really what's important to you. And so the term rich and by choice play really well together, because as it breaks it down through the book, we'll talk about is all the different choices we have in the life that you can create. It's exciting. You can do it. And I love helping people do it.
Yeah, and I really like the framework of the book as well.
Thank you.
It's the by choice theme. It's just broken down chapter by chapter. So there's victor by choice, empowerment by choice, happiness by choice, and it just goes on and on. So you drill in to choice from a lot of different perspectives. And I assume that the way you do this is somewhat sequential. So maybe that first chapter, Victor by Choice, is the groundwork that builds for the other chapters. Is that correct?
It does. And I'll be very honest with you, Vince. In there, talk about choice. I talk about some choices I've made that didn't work out and didn't lead to success. So it's not all sunshine and lollipops. I talk about that, me and my wife, of mistakes that I made along the way and things I've seen other people make. So there's both sides there. But yes, it is. It lays the groundwork. The book is unique, and that's why it's had so much success and it's been multiple time bestsellers, because it takes the reader on a journey of understanding, hey, who's important to them? What's important to them? Let's design a life that's going to make you happy, because every life is different, and what everyone wants can be different. Not good or bad, and that's okay. Different's not a bad word. It's, hey, let's understand what's going to make you happy, and not just the big picture of, hey, I want to retire, or hey, I want to get out of debt, or hey, I want $1 million, or whatever that is. It's understanding what exactly does that life look like. If we're going to design something, let's be specific. Let's take the time to understand of what's truly going to make us happy, and then it teaches you to align money tactics with that, because that's when real happiness. When we die, Vince, you think you're going to be worrying about money in your bank account when you're on your deathbed? No.
I sure hope.
No, you're gonna.
If I have really missed the point of this whole shebang.
But that's it. That is it. Now, you need money. It's important, right? It's like money's the greatest paradox. It's everything, but it's nothing. But you need it. But also, it's going to be the things that you created, the people in your life, the memories that you did. That's what's so unique about the book. And so, like I said, it's psychology, it's self-help, it's personal growth, but it's money intertwined. So it's very unique. And I love that.
And so much of money management, in my experience, really comes down to intentionality. And I think in your own way, in your own vernacular, that's what you're framing up is let's be intentional about what we're doing. And I can see how your framework sets that up. I'd love to just dig into a few of the chapters. We'll just jump around a bit.
Sure, I love it.
Yeah, just to get a feel for the way the book approaches subjects. And since Victor by choice, live life on your own terms, since that is chapter 1, that is the bedrock. You've touched on it a bit, but could you elaborate a bit more on why that is the bedrock, why that's the starting point?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Vince, because I just told you my story, rags to riches, right? But my story actually goes full circle. I went riches to rags to riches to rags to riches. And so it just talks about my life and overcoming obstacles. But the thing is, I had a choice to either let life happen to me and sulk and woe is me type stuff, or I could be the victor and say, hey, this happened to me. It's part of my life. Like, it wasn't fun. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but hey, today's a new day. What can I do about the future? And as I talk to people, and I've talked to thousands upon thousands of people through my career, we all have stories similar to mine. Maybe a little bit different, but we all have gone through ups and downs in life. And so we have the opportunity to be the victor, all of us. And please don't think I'm not being heartfelt on people have been through real tough stuff in their life. And I get that. And I'm not, some of the tough people have been through a lot more tougher things, more painful tragedies than I have been for. And my heart's here for you. I get that. But it's just trying to motivate and inspire people to say, hey, we can't do anything about the past right now, but what can we do going forward? How can we take ownership and say, you know what, this happened to me or this happened in my life. Let's start building from here. Because we don't have an option of, hey, when we come into this world, when we leave it, but we do have the choice to how we live our lives right now and the choices we make. And so that's chapter 1 is all about inspiration of, hey, let's do this. I want to help you.
Yeah, and regardless of what situation you're in, incremental improvement, I think, excuse me, is only possible with that attitude. Now, how much progress you make, that there are a lot of factors in that. There are a lot of circumstances. Well, circumstances may cap what that upper limit is, but you're not going to improve your situation by accident, unintentionally. And as far as you and me and our first world problems, that might sound like it's easy for us to say, but you can go to the other side of the globe. You can go to places where there is real poverty that is measured by another standard than how we measure poverty in this country.
You're exactly right.
Crushing poverty, but the spirit of those people is the spirit that we're talking about here.
That's exactly right.
So I feel confident in agreeing with you on this, not from my perspective or your perspective, but from the perspective of those people who are in circumstances that are unspeakable to you and I, still manage to have those attitudes and situations where there's no running water and you're living in a mud hut. They still have that attitude. And by that, they're able to make not only incremental improvements in their life, but this whole thing about happiness And chapter 3 in your book is happiness by choice. We talk so much about happiness in this society, and it's connected in some people's minds to wealth. I think we probably lead the world in making that association between happiness and wealth. Speak to us for just a minute about the relationship between happiness and wealth in your view, in your opinion, as you uncover it in this book.
Absolutely. And Vince, you're exactly right. And I love that you brought this up because not a lot of people have asked me about this. But if you look at the book as a whole, and I probably should have been looking back, when you're writing a book, you could almost never be finished with the book. You can always make little tweaks and little add-ins, and that's a tough thing about writing a book that I learned is at some point you got to draw the line and say, okay, it's done. We're rolling with what we got, and we'll have volume 2 at some point. But looking back, I detailed all these things when it comes to happiness in the book, but I possibly could have been a little bit more direct because when you look at happiness, people associate happiness with one thing or maybe two. It could be the feel-goods. I feel happy, so I must be happy. Or wealth is one version, but actually if you really look into it, and the book takes you on that journey and what helps you understand that is there's so many different elements into happiness. Overcoming, being resilient and overcoming tough times. There's happiness in that. I would always say in high school, I have an older son, he's 19 now, and he's in high school. I actually wrote him a letter. And I wrote him plenty of letters, but this one was really dear to my heart, and I talked to him about him. I said, hey, son, when you see me, you might see finance, or you might see basketball. I was a pro basketball player before going into the financial industry. But what I want you to see is happiness. I'm happy. Man, I got God, I've got your mom, I've got our family. I'm happy. And these are what I call the secrets of success, virtues of success. When we talked about them, integrity, faith. And when I went through the list here, and I really put on my heart that, hey, I don't care what life you have. I just want you to live the life that you want. And whenever you decide and understand what's important to you, these will help you get it. But what I should have wrote was, I want you to be resilient, okay? Because happiness is on the other side of resiliency, but there's so many more. There's relationships, there's faith, there is wealth, but you could call it wealth achievement, setting goals and working towards those goals. So there's so many different things that go into happiness that this book talks about because it's not just one thing. Vince, have you ever read The Psychology of Happiness? Is it Martin Seligman? Are you familiar with him at all?
I'm not familiar with him. I've read The Psychology of Money.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. No, and he kind of goes into, he's at Harvard, and there's some research, and a lot of things I talk about, I read some of that book after I wrote mine, but it's real similar. He has 6 key things that go into happiness. And yes, feel good is one of them, but Vince, how many days out throughout the year that you and I wake up and we might be a little tired or a little sick? You're not always going to feel good. That's just life. Yeah. But there's things that you really can pay attention to and metrics you can watch. And that's what my book does, is help you understand those things. But a lot of it's based off you. What makes you happy? Understand what makes you happy. Who makes you happy? So that's important when you talk about happiness. It's not just one thing like you talk about wealth, but wealth is a part of it because that's achievement. But there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah, and these topics to some, this is a personal finance podcast, we're talking about money, but yet we're going down this road of talking about happiness, which may sound a little off subject or a little ooey gooey maybe to some people who are listening. But one thing that I have realized in myself and in others as I've studied this subject and 200 plus interviews on this podcast and just experience geeking out on this subject. One of the reasons that I personally think it's important to explore this topic as you're trying to get your financial life together is it helps you to sort out really what the purpose of money is. If you can discover that perhaps your spending habits and the things that you want to acquire and those things that you just can't live without, that really maybe that's a pursuit of happiness out of things that's not going to occur, then all of a sudden your mind is, that by itself frees up a certain amount of money for other things.
It does.
If you can unplug that, if I get this, I'll be happy. If I get that, I'll be happy.
And that's what most people think, if I get this or get that, but it's actually the pursuit of when they start getting happiness. So, Vince, another great point that you just made. Look at social media, Facebook. Since the rise of Facebook, it's not Facebook's fault, but anxiety, depression, things like that have gone through the roof. Not only for teenagers, but adults. You know why? Because everybody puts on Facebook their highlight reel. Nobody puts their credit card statement or their debt statement on Facebook. But what this does in my book, when it helps people really, you're creating a life by design rather than default. You're designing and you're taking the time to understand what's going to make you happy, what you just talked about. Because then once you understand exactly who you are and where you're going and where you want to be, you're more happy for the people that are on social media. You're like, great, that's great. I don't want that, but good for them. It's not a competition. And I think that's so important, not just for personal growth but just mental wellness in general, to take the time. And I'm not judging, because guess what? I got 4 kids. I'm probably leaving here. I'm going to a soccer practice. I got baseball games this weekend. I'm busy just like everyone else. It's so important to take the time to stop and take a deep breath and go, okay, hey, where are we going? What do we want? What's going to make us happy? And saving money is boring. Investing money is boring. Vince, I'd rather be spending it. But when my wife and I sat down, we became really clear on the life we wanted to build. Then it becomes fun, because you're building something that you're excited about, not just saving and investing for its own sake.
Again, one of the things I like about your book is it explores both these soft topics that we're talking about, and it also gets very practical. I want to, before we pivot to some of the more practical elements, there's one more soft subject,
Okay.
quote unquote, that I want to explore. And it comes up over and over again on this podcast. And that is, you have a chapter called Relationship by Choice. Mm-hmm. The subtitle of that is Find Your Financial Who.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about the what here. Tell us a little bit more about Relationships by Choice and your financial who.
Oh, great. And it's actually several parts in there. I'll give you the 2 biggest one, because there's multiple who's in everybody's life. The first one, which is marriage and money. The number one cause of divorce and marital issues is money, 100%. I've seen it a lot. You know what? I made mistakes in this area, Vince. I talk about that in the book, the mistakes I made, not necessarily intentionally, but it happened. When I first got married, my job was a financial advisor. I thought I was helping the family by handling the money. Not in a man versus woman or more. No, it's just I thought I could really help the family. And my wife really didn't know what was going on the details of our finances. I coined this phrase, I was outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. And what does that mean? You might be asking yourself. What that means is, hey, by the world standards, my job and my income and business was growing, but my happiness wasn't growing along with it. And the reason why, I felt like we were spinning in the mud, that my wife and I just couldn't get on the same page. And I remember this. We were on our way home from Lubbock, Texas Tech football weekend. We're driving on the road, and guess what? Another money disagreement. It happened. It was happening. There weren't fights, but just we couldn't get on the same page. I had a choice. I could just keep rehashing this and having these difficulties, or I could go searching for answers. And I remember asking mentors. I'm very blessed with men in my life who I could go to and say, I'm dealing with this, I need help. And they gave me books to read. And they weren't money books, but they were books about relationships and marriage. And what I learned it was so important, and not only my religious beliefs to cleave and become one flesh, that we need to be united, but also it's just practical. I needed to sit down with my wife and really just say, hey, let's get on the same page here. And we create what's called a vision statement. And that vision statement is where, hey, we take 10 pieces of paper and we go to separate areas of the house. You need about 45 minutes to an hour. And we really just start writing. We write everything we want in life. Relationships, family, faith, yes, stuff. What does retirement life look like? And it's not just, hey, I want a retirement home. No, I want a 2-story house with blue shutters on the 5th hole of this country club or whatever it might be. Be very detailed. And then you come together and you learn about each other and you start to really understand what's important to each of us and what is design, the exact life that we want to build, the exact life that's going to bring the most happiness. And then we talk about our relationships. I got 4 kids. So statistically speaking, I hope not, but statistically speaking, one of them is going to move out of state. I might be halfway across the world or the country. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer, but are we buying a second home there that we're there every month? Are we just coming in for holidays? What does that look like? So we need to understand this, because guess what, Vince? There's a cost that goes into all these decisions. And there's a cost that's going to go into, hey, how we live our life. Not good or bad or better or worse. So that was the number one thing, is getting on the page with your wife. And that number one exercise, which I give details in there, and then us having weekly meetings about money where all voices are heard, was a game changer. Completely changed our marriage in a wonderful way. I want everybody to do that. And then the next thing was relationships was my grandpa passed away. And my dad was given the eulogy and speaking. He gave an analogy of a rock being thrown into a pond. I was in the right side of the church. I was wearing a gray suit, white shirt. And he said, imagine a rock going into the pond and you see this ripple effect. He said his dad, which is my grandpa, that his life, that had a ripple effect. All the choices he made, people he loved. Such a ripple effect. And it made me start thinking about, hey, I'm a part of that ripple effect. So I've been loved by people. People have really helped me along the way. So I'm a part of their ripple effect. But I'm also creating my own ripple effect. Who in my life is important to me that I want to help and have a positive? And it's not just family, but it's anybody that you come in contact with. So not only is it marriage and money, but it's also our ripple effect, which is legacy and the things we want to do and the people we want to help along the way. So powerful.
So I relate to both of those. The legacy part of this, I can certainly see how looking back on the lives of those that have come before us, have passed away, can give you the perspective to really thinking about, okay, what do I want to leave? And that's both financial and otherwise. Is my legacy? And that's going to lead you to things that are beyond money. It's going to start you thinking. I want to go back to this conversation with your wife.
Okay.
Though.
Yeah.
So you gave some great tips here, but I'm curious as to how mapping out your individual visions reduced the kind of conversations that you were having, arguments that day, because I'm imagining that was not a very high level argument. It was probably something about maybe something she bought that you didn't know about and why did you do that, or something that you bought that she didn't disagree with. It was probably just the little irritations of life.
Yes.
How does that big picture, let's go to a separate side of the house and plan out our vision for life, how does that reduce those little nagging disagreements that we all have?
Yeah, because then the main thing, which is so important, is that we came together. Like she had her own vision, I had my own vision, and we came together and we created a unified vision. So we got to be really clear, because when you create a vision statement, the goal is to write as much as possible. All the different things, everything. I even had clients do this. They wanted his and her Mercedes. Hey, that's fun, right? His and hers Mercedes. But when we started talking about it, were they willing to work a little harder, save a little more, sacrifice a little more to get them? And the answer is no. There's nothing wrong with his or her Mercedes, but when you start doing it, so we did that. We came together and really together started circling on our own vision of, hey, what's really important to us? Let's talk here. What is really going to move the needle in joy, happiness, peace? That's it. A lot of things we had similar. Really. Then we had some stuff that were completely different, which is great. But we got to say, hey, this is what we want. And we had some things on there that I wanted, she didn't. We had some things on there that she wanted, I might not have. But from that point forward is then, okay, now we've got a goal. We've got a mountaintop that we're going to climb, and we're going to climb it together. And to see each other talk about certain things. Like I saw her talk about certain things that I didn't know was that powerful to her, and I could just see it in her. And so it really was a growth thing of understanding each other and what's important, because on these vision statements, it's details. It's not just, oh, I want a strong relationship with my kids and grandkids. No, it's, hey, this is how I want to be involved in their life. This is what's important to me. This is what it looks like on Tuesday afternoon when I'm retired. This is the values that I want to instill in our kids. These are the trips and the lifestyle that I want as they grow up. So it's all these things. And then from there, once you get on the same page, then the next step is those day-to-day. Because then it becomes very easy. And now we talk about this in budgeting too. When you have this goal or these goals, this lifestyle, then you talked about what you just described, Vince, this purchase over here, that purchase over there. You're both on the same page of, hey, what's really important to us? Okay, so all these little decisions, they kind of go by the wayside. We're both on the same train, moving the same direction. And does that mean our finances are perfect and we don't butt heads from? No, that's marriage, my man. You know that. That's marriage. But the big picture stuff and us going in the right direction together, it completely changed. And then we start having these meetings and you get to bring up, okay, hey, we've got this decision. How does this decision get us to here? Is it helping us? Is it hurting us? And so you've got this target out there you're shooting for, and everything is aligned to that.
So it almost sounds like that reassurance that you're on the same page and working towards the same big goals maybe makes these other little nagging things, it puts them in perspective. Yeah, you're spending more at Starbucks than I would. In a week, you're spending more than I would spend at Starbucks in a year. I don't necessarily get it, but hey, as far as the important things, we're on the same page. Your Starbucks addiction is not derailing us from the big picture, and it helps to put these other things in perspective.
Absolutely, because Vince, you just hit the nail on the head, or a very important thing is, are we going to get there? Are we going to be okay? Okay, so if we're the big picture stuff, we can check mark the box. These little stuff are important because a lot of little stuff add up to a big stuff, but you're keeping things in perspective. If I'm going to hit this, then if I give a little here, then who cares? You know what I'm saying? Now, that was for us, and you talked about Starbucks, but now if these little things are getting away of hitting here, then hey, let's talk, because this is what we said we're going to make happen. This is what we want for our family. This is what we want. And you talked about legacy, and legacy is a great word, but sometimes it can be stuffy, it can be corporate, but who do you love and how do you want to impact their life? And you said it perfectly. Yes, it's money, but it's also so much more. And so when you get the big picture stuff down, the little stuff is like the big domino falls, all the little dominoes seem to fall into place. But Vince, I want to say this. You can't just do it once. It's something that's got to be a part of your life. Like it doesn't have to be weekly, but it needs to be monthly, quarterly, definitely multiple times a year.
I've never thought about it this way, but I think about the old Stephen Covey visual demonstration where he has the rocks in the sand, and the rocks represent the important things in your life. And so I can't get all of this in this jar, but you put the rocks in first, and then you pour the sand around it, the rocks representing the important thing, and all of a sudden you can fit it all together. So
yeah.
We're in that world, what we're talking about, just having a firm grasp on what the big rocks are.
No, that is. But Vince, I'd even add one more visual to that. And I love that. And to add on that, what I've realized too for us is like you put the big rocks inside a jar and everything fills in. But I want you to put the big rocks in your hand, and the sand, the little stuff falls off your hand. It's almost like letting the small stuff roll off your shoulders. So if you've got the big stuff taken care of, sometimes all the little stuff can just roll off your back because, hey, we're on our way, we're going to get there, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and there's so many more of these foundational topics that are in the book: emotions by choice, resilience by choice, design by choice. Some of those we've hit on a bit just naturally in our conversation. But I want to flash forward to one of the chapters that really starts to dig into some of the more practical subject, and that really starts with chapter 11, growth by choice. And I just have sub bullets here of things that are discussed. It says the latte factor, what's your savings rate, simple and effective monthly budgeting secrets. In a limited amount of time on a podcast, if you had to pick just a couple of nuggets from that chapter for us to talk about, what would those be?
Yeah, the first one is one that's not highly talked about, and not that it's the most important, but you don't see this a lot on financial books, is when it talks about earnings power. Earnings power, what everyone always talks about, what's the greatest investment ever? Is it real estate? Is it stock market? Is it Bitcoin? Is it this, that? The greatest investment ever is always linked to the highest ROI, return on investment. The greatest investment ever, the highest ROI, is yourself. Think about that. If you improve yourself, it's like becoming a stronger magnet. I got a buddy right now, he's getting ready to sell his company for $30 million. That's a lot of jingle. That's a lot of money. That's not everybody's a lot. But you know what? I love him to death. He's my buddy. He's not the smartest guy in the world. He's not. He's a good dude. He's smart. But what he did do is he committed himself to personal growth, which means he reads 10 pages or one chapter of a good book every day. And he's done it for 20 years. It takes 10 minutes. And also, once or twice a year, he'll go to certain personal growth seminars, things like that, to make sure he's in line. So he's always trying to improve. Now, is he spending 12 hours a day just killing himself trying to improve? No, he played the long game where it's just a little bit added up to a long period of time. And so it gives several examples like that. Reading is like doing wind sprints for the brain. Now, there's so many different and we talk about that. It helps you understand hey, where do they want to go and where can they improve on their personal growth. And guess what? It gives a lot of real life stories of rags to riches of like Tony Robbins. It doesn't matter if you like him or don't like him, but he was living on an apartment. He talks about this, and then he went to a real estate seminar or a Jim Rome seminar, personal growth seminar, and it completely changed his life. Personal growth. So there's so many stories that talk about that, and that's huge in the chapter to help people understand hey, become the person that you need to be to attract and achieve the life that you want, because it's not just going to happen. The next one is we talk about the budget secret, the latte factor. Yeah, talk about Cindy, who comes into my office. She literally said, hey, only rich people can invest. She did. I said, okay, hey, sit down with me. Let's talk about your day. And we list out all the things that she did. She met me in the afternoon and all the things that she had done and the cost. I said, okay, hey, you've told me that this is where your life is at right now. This is where you want to be. You want financial independence, financial security. Let me ask you something. I'm looking over the money that you spent today. Pick one thing. Pick one thing right here that you would be willing to give up that's not really moving the needle in your happiness, your joy, that you would do it and that you would give up. And that $7 a day leads to $1 million down the road. And so that's so important to show that. Now, the goal is to understand your budget. There's no good or bad when it comes to spending. It's, hey, is it bringing me the things that I want now? And is it stopping me from getting the life that I want? Spend money. Have fun. You need a balance. You need equilibrium. But understand what's really moving the needle and what's helping you or preventing you to get it. My wife and I go to high schools. We talk to kids all the time. I love it because someone did that for me. I asked them, I said, hey, why do you drink Dr. Pepper right now? And there's nothing wrong with Dr. Pepper. I just saying it, but they drink Dr. Pepper. How much money do you spend a day on Dr. Pepper? Why don't they have 2 or 3 Dr. Peppers? Let me ask you something. If I offered you $2 million to stop drinking Dr. Pepper, would you? Everyone raises their hand. Yes, of course I would. I show them the money that they're spending on Dr. Pepper, and over the next 25 years with this company, you'll have this money. Now my goal is I'm not trying to talk down to them for drinking Coke, even though it is battery acid for the body. But what I'm trying to show them is your choice is opportunity cost. It's a great way for people to say, okay, hey, let's look here.
And you and I, the financial geeks, we're very familiar with the latte factor. But if you could explain, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the author who coined that phrase, but it floats around a lot in personal finance conversations. Could you explain the latte factor?
Yeah, the latte factor, what I just described, is going over your budget, and it's your monthly budget. And in the book, I call it an every penny budget. So you're supposed to track your budget, every single penny you spend. And what's great about today is with debit cards and things like that, everything's gonna be electronic to where it can track it for you. And there's so many different apps out there that can help you. But the goal is to track every penny for 3 months and see where your money's going. And then I promise you, I haven't met one person who couldn't do this, is find a couple of things in there that you really don't need. Do you know how many subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, all of us are paying for right now? And do you know how many monthly subscriptions we're all paying for that most of us don't even know we have or using? So you can find certain things in your budget, but what it is saying, one small thing, if you stop it and reallocate that money. So like a latte, you brought that up. What is that, $7 a day? If you reallocate that one choice, that $7 into what Dave Ramsey calls a growth mutual fund, or what might be investment that averages 12% annualized return, it would lead to millions down the road. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it is. So it's just saying that one small choice. I've worked with clients before that they could easily come up with a couple of those choices. And so it's just saying, it's just letting you understand it from a positive way. Because if I just say, like Vince, again, if I just say, hey, Vince, you need to save and invest, you're probably like, man, not you, but someone might be like, oh, that's boring, I don't want to do that. But if I say, hey, this one choice over here that you really don't need or want could lead to millions down the road, now I've got your attention. And now you start to see things differently.
And the fact that it's called the latte factor, I think, unfortunately, gives it, in some circles, a negative connotation, because unfortunately lattes are very close to the heart of some people. So if they line up and they really look at things they spend money on, no, God, not my latte.
Yeah.
I think that the whole idea sometimes gets twisted into I have to go into this deprivation. I can't have any fun. I can't enjoy my life. Just have to suck all of the enjoyment out of my life and just go scorched earth forever and ever, amen. That's not what we're saying here.
You're exactly right, Vince. And I specifically talk about that. I say, hey, listen, I want you to go out to eat. I want you to go shopping. I want you to eat pizza and ice cream. I want you to do that. But I want you to take the time to understand hey, what's really moving the needle? Again, look at your budget line by line and say, okay, is this making me happy? Is this bringing me more peace and joy? What is helping me not only now, but in the future, get to where I want to be and live the life I want? It's just being cognizant, which is understanding of, hey, where's my money going? There's so many times, I don't want to use everybody, but most people, there's several things daily or monthly or yearly that you would go, I didn't even know I was spending money on that. Or I don't really care about that. But I do care about being financially independent down the road. I do care about being rich or wealthy, financially free. That's important to me. This other thing I can go without.
Right. And I think the obstacle to taking this step sometime is the whole idea of opening this up. There's this preconceived notion of, if I go there, I'm going to end up giving up something that is really meaningful to me. One, if it's just you, That's your choice. So any choice that you can make and sleep with it at night,
Yeah.
if you really decide that latte is just that more important, after really thinking this thing out and opening it up, Godspeed. You'll have to accept, if you're not willing to give up anything, you may have to accept the fact that your situation is not going to change. Just stare that straight in the face and deal with it. Now, if you're dealing with couples, and I've seen this also, and I alluded to this earlier, one man's latte is another man's waste, or one woman's latte is a man's, in a man's view, waste, or vice versa. So this whole thing of, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, those things that might mean a lot to me that for you seems like waste.
Yeah, and that's why the book where you talked about earlier and how I really love it, because there's quantitative and qualitative. But what that means is we first take you on that journey of saying, hey, what's really important to us? Let's not even talk about dollars and cents yet. Let's talk about let's talk about the life we want. And you didn't bring up emotion by choices. People really don't even want money. They want what money can do for them. They don't care about money. They care about what it can do, the life they can. So you have them come up with, hey, what are you searching for? Really, it's not more money, it's X. What is that? And so once you start doing that and you're creating the life that you want, the things that are going to make you happy, then it's easy to come with these tactical strategies of, okay, now let's start talking about, oh, this latte is really important for me. Hey, not a problem. I promise you, there's something on there that's not. And here's the thing, Vince, because of the exercises we have you do, not just the vision statement but the other ones, you're at this point should be on the same page with your spouse. So you're both seeing eye to eye, and it's not war zone. It's, hey, we're on the same team. Let's hash this out and come together by that point. Because that budget thing, when you do that right off the bat with a spouse, that can turn into conflict. You know this. And so by doing these other exercises first, it's so powerful.
Yeah. And I just thought of this, the visual that went through my mind, the words that went through my mind as you were describing that, was at the end of the day, what we've talked about, getting on the same page and deciding what's important. That's the big we.
There it is.
But also that there is the little me. There are the smaller things that are important to me that may not be important to you, and vice versa. So if we not only understand and respect the big we, which is the motivating factor, but we also have to have some respect for people's little me's, not be judgmental about those. If we just say, okay, it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't make sense to you, but the important thing is we're unified on the big thing, there you go.
No, and Vince, you didn't even ask this question, but that is an important chapter in the book, because there's chapters of information that talks about our money psychology and our money strength and weaknesses. Because you got to think about it, every single one of us, man, woman, husband, wife, human being, we all were raised by parents who grew up in a certain area in a certain location during certain events that might have happened, and that affected our childhood and how we were raised and own personal life events that have led us to now. So what you talked about is the latte factor. Someone like their latte, it might not be the latte, it might be the psychology behind it. Something may have happened in their life where that's their safe zone. And I know but there's certain things like that. Like there's this husband and wife, and they are newly married. They're in a honeymoon stage, and Vince, in that honeymoon stage, everybody gets along. There's no issues. But as they started going longer into marriage, they started having some issues. And one was huge, is that she loved to fall asleep with the TV on. And he had to start waking up earlier and earlier. In his mind, he's like, how could she be so selfish that I got to get up early, but she's wanting to fall asleep with the TV on? But then come to find out, when they start pulling back the onion, is that she was raised by a single mom. And the mom had to work, and the TV was her only friend. And so when the TV would go out, she was alone in an apartment a lot. And that brings up anxiety. And so once they start to understand each other, again, that's the money psychology, and then also going to money strength and weaknesses of saying, hey, let's talk about why this is. Tell me more. Let's learn. And then in that story, putting on a sleep timer. A very simple strategy, sleep timer. But there's certain strategies for all of our strengths and weaknesses and psychology. But you need to get on the same page, and that's a very important part of it.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I'm not going to belabor this latte thing any longer, but I will say one other thing to put a bow on it. That latte to one person could represent, hey, I'll drink Folgers Crystals once a month. Coffee doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't represent anything. To this other person, they could have grown up and this ideal life that they wanted to live involved working in an office and rushing off every day and getting that cup of coffee. That's what they saw the characters do in their favorite movies, and they were successful and all of that. And just that little thing makes them feel like one of those characters.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to one person, but could be a tremendous thing to others. So
it's so put, but how many couples don't realize that about themselves and about each other?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love it. Vince, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yep. So I want to hit on one more of the practical categories here before our time wraps up. And I'm going to choose planning by choice, because that goes into the subtopics I see here: automatic millionaire, financial must-haves, finding confidence in your financial planning. In the time we have left, I'm just going to give you an open slate to point out anything that you feel like are the most important takeaways.
Yeah, so you're talking about in planning by choice? Yeah, in that one it goes through, because, again, what do people fear? People fear the unknown. I once had a grandma, and she was suffering from Alzheimer's, and I didn't know much about it because I was younger and when she was going through this, but as I was around her and many more other individuals that were similar with Alzheimer's, that they go through a stage where they start to get difficult. They get upset, they get aggravated, and the reason why, if you do the research, which is terribly sad, is that they get confused. That they don't know, and then so they get worried, which is a very common characteristic for all of us. People fear the unknown, or we don't know what's going on. So in planning, in there, I talk about all the different things you need to know and understand and ask yourself and find out about your plan, to where there is no confusion. There is no need to fear. What if this happens? What if that happens? So there's so many different things in planning that people don't understand. I also give examples of how to stress test your plans. And it could be a retirement plan, could be all sorts of plans. How do you stress test? Mostly people think a stress test is just downside protection, which it is. But also with a stress test, it's opportunities. What opportunities come along? If they came along, could we maximize? What opportunities are we not looking at? What are all the downside things, and how we react if this happens or that happens? These are so important to planning. Like right now in our business, it's not we go deeper in these areas, but we really help with 6 basic things, and we go super deep with them. Not only do we help them understand the life that they want and what exactly now we need to align with their money, but we help them make smart decisions with their money. We help them increase their cash flow. We help them with taxes. Huge. No one's talking about that. We go into it. We help them make sure their loved ones are taken care of. We help asset protection, make sure their lifestyle and assets aren't unjustly taken. And then we help them with how they make a larger impact, a greater impact on the world with charitable giving. Those are huge things. There's so many different questions you need to be asking yourself in all those different key categories, plus others when it comes to planning. But once you have answers to those questions, then Vince, you just, again, a lot of the things in the book, you just have to go, okay, yeah, the world's going to throw me curveballs, but we got this and that. And so, again, my wife and I have 4 kids. Does every single one of them eat all their vegetables and go to bed on time? Vince, the answer is no. But by having these things in line, it allows us to take that big boulder off our shoulders and just more fully enjoy each day.
Yeah, and again, I'll come back to a point that we talked about earlier. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. You just have to have a plan, because without a plan, you're sure to fail. You're not going to hit the target. There's a 0% chance you're going to hit the target if you don't have a plan to do. But there's a quote that I keep on my wall back here. It's a military quote. I think it's like MacArthur or somebody. It's something along the lines, because I'm not going to turn around and read it, but it's a good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow.
100%.
Sometimes this whole idea of planning, people get that, and it depends on personality types, but some people can get so wrapped around the axle of, oh, I got to have a plan, I got to have a plan. It's like you were talking about with a book. Sometimes you just have to pull the friggin' trigger. So
it is.
Yeah, that's just one of my things. I find some personality types get hung up on that. And it's like, relax. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan.
No, and there's so much proven research data that states that, hey, because we talked about it earlier, people say, once I find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, I'll be happy. Once I lose this weight or health and wellness, I'll be happy. Once I get $1 million or $100 million, I'll be happy. No, happiness is actually proven. It starts to increase the moment you start taking a step towards what you want. And it can be a baby step. It's just getting it going. My wife and I, our finances now are so much better than they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, because it keeps growing. If we didn't know all we knew now, but we got started, like you said, that's the biggest thing. There's actually research data that talks about this. I talk about this in the book, is we're going to get thrown curveballs in life. The best thing to do is, hey, what action can I take right now to start moving towards a resolution? And sometimes that doesn't mean just act right away. Sometimes it's, hey, I'm going to research these options that could help me with a resolution. But again, it goes to, you start to feel a little better. Anxiety rolls off. Concern starts to low because you have a plan and you're taking what, Vince? A step forward. So I love that you bring that up.
Absolutely. And we could just go on and on here. The book is just that rich, and we're both that much into these topics. But I do want to bring it in for a landing here. So your online headquarters, you have a couple of them. For the book, richbychoicebook.com.
Correct.
And for your financial practice, it's michaelsfamilyfinancial.com.
Correct.
And again, I'm just going to give you an open microphone here just to say anything that you would like about either one of those sites and the resources that are available.
No, Vince, I love that. We've talked about so many key elements of success, like just riches upon riches of how you can become rich in life, rich with money. But I also want, if you're excited about today and you want to jumpstart your life, you're taking heard what we learned and you want a little bit more, I want to offer you a free resource. It's my gift to you. Go to richbychoicebook.com, richbychoicebook.com, and right there on the homepage will be a green box that says free gift. Click on it. Type in your email address, click Compounding by Choice. And Vince, we've had so many success stories with this chapter because what it talks about is most of the time when you think about money, you think about compound interest, right? Growing your money, which is wonderful. And it talks about that, but it also talks about, Vince, every area of your life right now is compounding. Either compounding for positive or compounding for negative. And it helps you, like you said, to understand the things that are important to you. And it gives you simple tactics and strategies you can start doing, like daily habits, small things that will start to build on each other and build and compound for the benefit. I mean, it could be relationships. It could be health and wellness. Yes, money, finances, business, personal growth. So many different things. And it gives you a game plan. And it's not complicated. Not complicated at all. And that's what we love about it. We've had just the success stories have poured in. Just people we've talked to, online reviews, emails of just saying how it's transformed lives. And so it's our free gift to you. You don't have to buy the book if you don't want to. It's just our free gift, and just step back and wait how it changes your life. And so we're so happy to be here. But yeah, richbychoicebook.com, free gift, the Compound by Choice. Click it, and it'll be emailed to you.
Nick, we will be sure to have the appropriate links in the show notes of this episode. And at this point, I really just want to thank you for the conversation. The great thing about so many of my guests, and you're right at the head of that list, is the enthusiasm and passion you have for this subject is just obvious. We talked a little earlier about the proceeds from the book. I understand that you actually donate those, a portion, maybe all of it, to a charity. So this is really a mission of passion for you as much as anything else, and that passion has come across just magnified by 100 in this conversation. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being on CFO at Home today.
Hey, Vince, I'm happy to be here. God bless everybody.